вас не подвести, я должен на него. Спасибо. Спасибо большое.
Chakshuramitamina tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-manobhistam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Purijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Sakanditamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Visadvansita Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyacha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we begin our Parikram here in Swananda Sukhada Kunja, the residence of Srila Bhakti Thakur. It is from this place that Srila Bhakti Thakur saw the effulgence of the Yoga Pit, and it is from this place that he finally concluded what the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. Of course, he had spent years studying different books, different maps and various records to ascertain for sure where the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. Some said it was under the Ganga, others claimed it was in Navadvip. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was sure it was not in Navadvip, not in the Navadvip of today. Finally, that place of the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was discovered. And later, the Thakur wrote the Navadvipam Mahatmya, that the book that is revealing to us the entire Dham, and with Sridham Mayapur in the very center, and here, and then all the 9 islands of Navadvip, and the various places that were present in that locality. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how Lord Nityananda took Jiva Goswami and showed him, gave him the full darshan of all the 9 islands. This is the island of Godrum, and we'll stay today on this island of Godrum. This island is dedicated to Kirtan, and of course Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the pioneer of international preaching. In the year 1896, he sent a book to the McGill University in Canada with the idea of trying to reach beyond the borders of India in the same year as Srila Prabhupada's birth year. Anyway, it is by the mercy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that we are here in Mayapur Dham and understanding the nature of the Dham, understanding a little bit about the various localities of the Dham, because it is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur who has revealed this to us. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so broad in the sense that he has covered practically every aspect of Krishna consciousness in such a broad way that it is good that we have many speakers today, because all could speak about a different feature of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote many books. He wrote some of the major books that he wrote are known as Sri Chaitanya Siksamrita, Jaiva Dharma, and also Harinam Chintamani. Of course, Harinam Chintamani is an expansion on the discussion of Haridas Thakur and in the house of Hiranyan Govardhan Majumdar on the topic of the holy name, and it elaborately describes the nature of chanting Hare Krishna. In Jaiva Dharma, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta covers the entire process of bhakti from Shraddha to Prem in the form of a novel, which is very interesting because that novel is in this holy area of Bengal, of the holy Dham of Mayapur, about less than 100 years after the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there are still some devotees alive who have seen Lord Nityananda. Various pastimes are described, how the devotees are living here in Godrum, very simple, just like the 6 Goswamis in a very renounced fashion, and how they were absorbed simply in hearing and chanting many names of the Lord. Then within that group of Vaishnavas, many visitors come, and along with these visitors there are many discussions. Smarta Brahmanas come to establish their superior position by birth. Muslims come to question why deity worship. Shaktas come to emphasize the worship of Durga or Kali Ma. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur addresses all these topics. And then he goes further and he begins to address the deeper aspects of devotional service. And he begins to speak about Raganuga Bhakti. He begins to speak about spontaneous devotional service. It is very interesting At one point, there is a description how Sarup Damodar Goswami instructed both Raghunath Das Goswami and both Gopal Guru Goswami in these more elevated types of service in pure love. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how Gopal, that the Bahi Panta and the Anta Panta, and that the Bahi Panta is an external path through which one tries to awaken his eternal spiritual identity, and that the Anta Panta is a path where everything is automatically revealed. And it's said that Sarup Damodar Goswami, the secretary of Lord Chaitanya, was teaching this Antapanta to Raghunath Das Goswami. And the external path of trying to consciously cultivate the Siddha Deha, this eternal spiritual body, to Gopal Guru Goswami. So it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada told us everything will be automatically revealed. That is the Antapanta, the internal path. So we see many roots of our movement, whether it is the more intimate or the deeper aspects of philosophy, whether it is the revelation of the Holy Dham, whether it is the essence of Nam Tattva, or whether it is just deep absorption in bhajan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's various songs are very deep and very rich. Just these songs alone, Srila Prabhupada said the words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur are as good as scripture. The Sandhya Arti, every evening, we're chanting the prayer of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In this way, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very, very present in this Sankirtan movement. He is the visionary of the Sankirtan movement for the modern world. Then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, his son, came and began to give it practical shape, began to, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur laid the foundation, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta started to give it a shape in the form of an organized movement. And then the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, took the Sankirtan movement all over the world, and now we are here in this place. So this place is of great importance to us. Of course, there is no ordinary place in the Holy Dham. But even amongst special places in the Holy Dham, this place is very special for us, because here we are connecting very much with our roots. Over time, every devotee must develop a personal relationship with the previous acharyas and take note of their teachings. Of course, we go through our founder acharya, but yet, by taking note of the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we become greatly enriched in our understanding and in our experience of devotional service. So that was my introduction, and I'll turn it over to Chandamoli Maharaj, who will tell us a bit more.
Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurudeva Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Desatarne. Namo Bhaktivedantaya Satchidananda Namine Gauda Shakti Sarupaya Upanurupadayate. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Thank you, Maharaj, for such a very inspiring introduction. Covered a lot in a few words. Thank you. Maharaj did mention that we should speak on different aspects of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life and his teachings, his contribution to the world. Maharaj spoke mostly about his books, so I'll speak a little bit about his personal life. One thing that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada mentions, and it's kind of an inspiration for all of us all of those of you in the Grihastha ashram, that he pointed to Bhaktivinoda Thakur to show that there's no limit of what one can do in Krishna consciousness. One is not restricted by ashram. And Prabhupada gave the example, or the actual title, he said, Paramahansa Grihastha. Grihastha Paramahansa, that was actually the word. So Prabhupada used that statement in reference to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he said also that those who follow in the footsteps of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that means one who makes their life a offering to Krishna to spread Krishna consciousness to others, is as good as a Paramahansa. That was Prabhupada's statement. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life, it's amazing when you think about it, how much he did and yet how much he had responsibility in other areas too. He had a family and he had 10 children. As we know, one of his children was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But he also had another illustrious son who was also very much involved in spreading Krishna consciousness. There was a younger brother of Bhaktisiddhanta, that was Lalit Prasad. And he was actually here during the time when Krishna consciousness started he was very old at the time, but he was still alive, and devotees had association with him also in the early days of Krishna consciousness in India. So two great sons who actually came by way of Bhaktivinoda, who gave their life to spread Krishna consciousness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate. He had a job with the British Raj. And it says that in doing his service to the British Raj, he would have to administer judgment on various court cases. And what took other judges a long time to decide, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had such insight and such spiritual awareness that he could simply look at the individuals in the case and give a verdict that was correct. So what was taking so much time by others, he would do it in less than half the time. So he was very much revered and also honored by the British for being one of the best judges in their echelon. Now you see this as a railroad tracks that come here. These railroad tracks were actually designed in such a way that they would pass by the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because the British Raj wanted to complement his service, and they arranged for a train car to be added on the regular train that would pass in this area simply for his convenience. He had his own car. I just bring this out to mention how much he did his service. Although he was a Vaishnava in all sense of the word, a great Vaishnava, propagated religious principles, but still he did his service in the material sense in the best possible way. His schedule, it's a really amazing schedule. Those of you maybe know a little bit about Srila Prabhupada's schedule, how Prabhupada used to take rest at 10:30 at night, get up at 12, and then translate through the night, and then chant rounds, and then go on a morning walk, and then come to the temple and give a Srimad Bhagavatam class, and then go on through most of the rest of the day, taking a little rest only after breakfast and lunch. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the same. He actually took a rest at 7:30 at night. He would wake up around midnight, and then he would write his books. And from there he would continue his whole day with various activities. So his schedule is really interesting. You can see how he used his time to accomplish so much. As Maharaj mentioned, some of the outstanding works that he gave us, Jaiva Dharma and Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Krishna Samhita, and many, many other wonderful works. A discourse on the Srimad Bhagavatam called the Bhagavat, which really put everything back in perspective of what the actual understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam was to the common people and to the scholars who had a different understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, thinking it was just some wise tale that people tell to their grandchildren at night before taking rest. He mentions that in the discussion about Srimad Bhagavatam. So he brought Srimad Bhagavatam right to its proper understanding through this discourse, which was a lecture who was later on written down in the form of a small book. Being a Vaishnava, he couldn't tolerate what we say, and it was a lot of that at the time. Persons who claimed to be incarnations of the Lord, persons who claimed to be the Lord himself. And at that time there was one person, his name was Vishikasena. Vishikasena was a very empowered yogi. And at that time, of course, we all know that India was under British control. And so he made it a point to rally the local people to try to overthrow the British. And he said that I actually am an incarnation of Mahavishnu, and I have come in this incarnation to overthrow the British in India. And so he became popular because yogis have that, what we say, acumen. They can speak in such a way as to enchant people's minds by what they say. And so he gathered a large following, but also claiming to be the Supreme Lord. He was acting in a very pretentious and a very licentious way, and trying to imitate Krishna by going into villages and attracting young girls to get involved in various types of activities, claiming he was the Supreme Lord. So this was disturbing very much. Finally, the British called in Bhaktivinoda Thakur and says, I think you need to settle this particular case. It's something that we feel you can help with. And so he approached this person, Vishikasena, and in a very respectable way, explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has already appeared on earth, and he is in a place called Jagannath Puri. And he is there in his transcendental form as Lord Jagannath. So actually, we should, and you should also worship the Supreme Lord as Jagannath. And his response was, yes, I can accept that, but he is in wood and I have come in this form. And we are this non-different. When a Vaishnava hears such language coming from such persons, they immediately become transcendentally angry. They cannot tolerate the fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who they give their love and understanding to in their life, has now come as some charlatan yogi who claims to be the Supreme Lord. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had the power of the British Raj behind him, so he arranged for the guards to lock this person up. So he put him in jail. Now this yogi had very long hair. Now when he was put in jail, obviously he didn't like it. And so he decided to take revenge on Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his family. So he did something that caused his whole family to get sick with very high fever, including Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur's wife, Bhagavati Devi, she was suffering very much from this fever. In fact, many of them were on the verge of death and dying from this fever. She said to her husband, "Please let him go, we are about to die." Bhakti Vinod Thakur's response was, "Let us all die, but we have to stop this rascal." He wasn't willing to give up with this threat. Finally, someone came to Bhakti Vinod Thakur and said, "His power is in his hair." So Bhakti Vinod Thakur arranged for guards to come in there and initiate him. Haircut. He didn't get a new name. He had a name already. His name was Rascal, but anyway. And when that happened, he lost all his powers. He had stored his mystic powers in his hair, and gradually, within a day or so, he actually died. And then, of course, everyone's fever went down after that. Well, this story has been told many times by devotees to illustrate how a great soul cannot tolerate. And you see when Srila Prabhupada would speak about those about Mayavadis or persons who claim to be incarnations or avatars, they get very excited. Excited in the sense that they want to immediately stop this. So therefore Srila Prabhupada's prana mantra is Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Devata. They come to destroy impersonalism. They come to awaken people from their sleep of accepting personalities who are not authorized. And we find this in the West a lot. People come from India and they come to different Western countries. They have some mystic power. And they can also enchant people's minds in a different way. And then you find so many movements are going on, even today. Just recently, I think in India, some yogi got exposed. I think he had thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers. But he was getting involved with his female disciples. And then they turned against him and everything, this whole thing. So there's so much of that going on. And therefore, great souls such as Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada are helping us understand what is reality in the sense of worship. Worship was meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears according to his own sweet will, but he gives his time periods. He says when he comes. So therefore, people who claim to be the Lord have to actually show by Shastra. And every time you present that particular argument, they can't prove it by Shastra. So we find this is the history of our culture, is that to not only Prabhupada was criticized sometimes for speaking strongly against others. And Prabhupada said, our movement is to teach what is and to teach what is not. We have to teach what is not, at the same time we have to teach what is. And there's so much, there's more about what is not than there is what is. So this is the history of our acharyas. And Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote many books on giving the clear understanding what is. And as Maharaj mentioned, Jaiva Dharma. It's interesting. I'm just reading Jaiva Dharma now. I picked it up the other day. I read it about 20 years ago. And Prabhupada said about Jaiva Dharma, he said, every devotee in our ISKCON movement should read this book. He said, this book is the most complete and detailed explanation of the science of pure devotional service. And it's done within a dialogue. So if you decide to read any of the books of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Prabhupada has highly recommended that we read Jaiva Dharma. And it's the way it's written It is easy to read and at the same time deep within the philosophical teachings of the Siddhanta, pure devotional service. Wonderful, wonderful book. And Prabhupada wanted us to read that one. Okay, so this is a little bit about Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. His life is full, and the information that is about Bhakti Vinod Thakur, we have so much more. So thank you very much, and I think there's many other devotees that will have a chance to enlighten all of you more on the life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So Pankajangri Prabhu has spent most of his life in Srila Mayapur, and in that sense is a local resident. So we are very fortunate that Pankajangri will enlighten us further.
Om Shindaya Krishna Krishnaya Vishnu Bhakti Vinod Swami Mo Bhakti Nodaya Sachidananda Namri Goshati Srupaya Rupa Nuga Parayate. This pranam mantra Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur is the energy of Srila Rupa Goswami. We all called Rupanugas, followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. We follow the path of bhakti as given by Srila Rupa Goswami. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur is very as I mentioned, important in our life. He's written over 100 books and essays, papers, songs. And as Maharaj mentioned, he's covered everything. He's covered all the different aspects of devotional service, bhakti, from the neophyte stage till the ultimate stage when one actually understands his relationship with Krishna is revealed. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur and the Navadi Bhavataranga actually reveals that, how it happened to him, who was Krishna, through his devotees. By the mercy of Shringadev, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, by the mercy of the other devotees, he reveals his own actual form, which is very esoteric and not usually, you don't usually hear about it in religious literatures. When he came, appeared, or started his mission to preach this, he was looking for a Chaitanya Charitamrita. He'd heard about it, but he never saw one. You know, everyone has in their pocket, right? You can press your button and see. It took him about 6 or 7 years to find a copy of CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita. The printing presses hadn't started much before that. And he said he read it, and he was very impressed. And the second time he read it, he was convinced that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. During that, after Lord Chaitanya left his manifest pastimes, practically everyone left Navadvip. This was the other side where Mayapur is. That was actually Navadvip, the city. It was a very populous city with thousands of professors and hundreds of thousands of students. Very, very prestigious place of learning in India at that time. Anyway, after Lord Chaitanya left, most of the devotees, they all left Navadvip because they couldn't bear, to go around and they see this place, oh, this is where Mahaprabhu used to do this is where Nimai did this. It was heartbreaking for them. So they left because they didn't, and so they went to various places. And practically they stopped preaching. Everyone had a broken heart. So the Mahaprabhu initiated Rupa Goswami and Sanatan and the other Swamis to establish this Krishna consciousness, and he ordered them to go to Vrindavan to get that, the potency and the ability, and they wrote all those fantastic literatures, Nana Shastra, Vichara Megana, Sadharma Samsatpako, that the Goswamis, they studied all of the different various scriptures, Vedic literatures, because they were exalted personalities. And I mean, even before in the material life, they were very highly placed officers, chief ministers, government ministers, sons of kings, practically. And they went through all of the different scriptures and took out the essential part, the sadharma, the eternal spiritual principles. The Vedas, they don't talk much about spirituality at all. So whatever there was, they took that out. The Vedas are more code books how to live in the world and next world or so. So they compiled this, and then they. But that time the preaching was actually going down, and then from the Goswamis came Narottam Das and Srinivas and Shyamananda, who took their books and got them printed and published, and they were active preachers again. This is like the next generation. Then it was flourishing again. Then after that it went down again, and a lot of these Asampradayas, the 12, 13 Asampradayas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they worship Lord Chaitanya, they chant Hare Krishna, but they concocted their own, concocted the teachings, the pure teachings of Mahaprabhu. They're supposed to be followers of Mahaprabhu. And it was some of them were quite debased, and they had so Vaishnavism then got quite a bad name, terrible name in fact. These Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because of these sahajas, they took it very cheaply. Some the Shaki bases, they dress up as gopis, they put on saris and dogs. And the owl bows, they have all kinds of, not very moral practices. But they become one. The man is Radha and the woman is Krishna. They're Shaki, and they have a big medal, and they change shakis every year. They come and hold a curtain, and the ladies will put their toes under the curtain, and they have this medal in Ramkili. So all kinds of things are going on, and all these teachings, and so that was on one side, and then on the other side, the British Raj, they were really demoralizing the Vedic culture. And the Indians, they really gave an inferiority complex, British is best, and you're all primitive natives, and you're following this primitive religion and worshipping these idols, and you're going to go there. So, and many of the intellectuals in Bengal at that time, they were kowtowing the British and trying to compromise. These movements come up like the Brahmos with these very influential Bengalis, poets and other things. They tried to make a compromise between, the Western religion and the Vedic thing. And so this was going on. This was a scenario when Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared. So he had a great task, and he took it very seriously. And practically, he was almost single-handedly. But he was a real gentleman. Of course, he was an empowered soul. And he was influential in the British government. He was a district magistrate, or additional district magistrate here. So he had that, and he had a lot of access to the British. Did a very good detailed survey maps. They map every place. Even they're mapping the big trees in Navadvip. They did very extensive, because they was interested in taking any mineral, finding any valuables in India. Therefore, they did a lot of infrastructure, like we built a train so you can go to Jagannath Puri, but they didn't tell you what they took out of the places on those trains. But in any case, that was. There was underlying the movement to demoralize and that, so this is the scenario at that time. So he could speak to anybody and philosophically impress them, like that's what he did. So then he actually made Gaudiya Vaishnavism respectable again. And then his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was fixed. He was sure that this is, the real thing. He didn't have all the opposition. People were coming on board of it. So he was just like it's called the lion, Simha Guru, the lion guru. He preached with a club. That was his motto. He would just smash, smash, smash. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he actually couldn't do that at that time because he was, Vaishnavism didn't have a good standing. In fact, when he was in Puri, there was one very prominent Vaishnava there, big Vaishnava, like ISKCON is, big following. And he used to come and hear Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he did this mantra which wasn't, Nitai Gaur Radhesham, Bhaja Hare Krishna Hare Ram. He was given this mantra. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra is recommended, 16 syllable Hare Krishna mantra. And they said, well, Mahaprabhu says, you have many hundreds of millions of names, and all these names you invested your transcendental energies. There's no hard and fast rule. So what is the difference? No, it's a rasabhasa technical thing. Anyway, but when Bhaktisiddhanta joined in, he would argue very ferociously. And in fact, this other devotee stopped coming. But Bhaktivinoda was always pounding, and he caused such a disturbance there, because this person was very popular. So everyone was up in arms, the whole of Puri was up in arms against Bhaktisiddhanta, because he's smashing their guru. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I think you should go to Mayapur, and you can develop there. So then he sent him here to keep the peace up there. So that was the difference. Srila Prabhupada also took on a little more on the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta. He said, you see, I don't compromise. He said, I smash everyone. He said, not only materialists, he said, even religionists. Even the religionists that don't come up to the platform of pure unalloyed devotional service to Krishna, then they're under my attack also. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very mellow in that situation. He had to play a different role. But certainly he is the foundation of this wave of Krishna consciousness that is spreading now. So this is the place he come here. We used to discuss with Gokisharas Babaji Maharaj. He's Bhajan Kuti. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. He was the most prominent Vaishnava probably on the planet at that time himself. And they used to have their discussions here. It's a very, very powerful place. You can pray to Bhaktivinoda to inspire you within your hearts that you can, and all these things we're learning in our Bhakti Shastris, and a lot of it is coming from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he may enlighten our hearts, that we can perceive this knowledge and take it to heart and appreciate the service that he has done, for the sacrifices that he has made for us by revealing all the scriptures, revealing the Dharma, revealing the process of devotional service in such a selfless way. So
then we'll ask Bhakti Nrsimha Maharaj to speak.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumidam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Saji Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Actually, I came here just to drink the nectar from these swamis. Now they put me on the spot. Generally, I just like to be quiet and just listen. Anyway, we have come to this very important place, as the Maharajas were explaining. What came into mind is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur also predicted. If you read his books, he's talking about the future of Krishna consciousness. As one of the pioneers, he's envisioning the devotees from different races coming to Sridham Mayapur and joining with the local devotees chanting Jai Sachinanda Gaura Hari, which was fulfilled by Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, this is a very, very important place where everything was revealed, even including our poor selves. Like I know myself, I'm from a very remote continent called Africa. But somehow other Prabhupada also personally came to Africa and discovered us and gave us the opportunity to come here and take the dust of these great acharyas. So in a way, I would say I feel very grateful to be here as part of Srila Prabhupada's followers, and we are responsible for taking this message and sharing it with our brothers and sisters wherever we come from. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a kind of like a very broad-minded person. It's like when you read his books, you'll see that he has studied Christianity. He doesn't criticize it. He found something good in it. He had studied Buddhism and studied many of the Western philosophers. He always brings out what is good from them also. So he's very, very inspiring. I think I have not all of his books, but since I joined, I was finding his books more easy for me to read and understand, because he was more like sort of like neutral, not like really hitting on the nail, but it's more accommodating. So that way, when you read his books, like Bhaktivinoda Vani Vaibhav, the way it is arranged, you can get all your answers to any question in a very palatable and pleasant manner. So he is very, very important acharya in our line. So today we are very fortunate to be here, especially myself, and I don't get this opportunity, and I'm very thankful to all the devotees that are here, as well as our organizers of MI, who have arranged that we come here. And thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
From here we'll go to Suvarna Bihar, and one interesting thing about Suvarna Bihar is that it's an ancient place referred to in the Navadvip Mahatmya, referring to an ancient king in Satya Yuga. But the interesting part is, maybe the most interesting part is that that place was discovered by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in that way, here we're making our connection with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and there we are connecting really with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who is completely in line with the vision of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and who is just trying to establish that vision. Of course, we'll go there and discuss more. That Suvarna Bihar is especially known as a kirtan place. It is a place where the Pancha Tattva appeared on several occasions and were dancing in big kirtans. So let us see if they will appear today to us. And in our hearts. I have seen Bhakti is an amazing dancer. He says, he still is. When we wake it up, and Chandraboli Maharaj, he can bounce in an amazing way. So let us see what awaits us later in the day. Finally, we'll end the day at Nrsimhapali, and which is the place of Lord Nrsimhadev. Also, that deity is very ancient, so they say, since Satya Yuga. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written 2 books, and today we're looking at these 2 books. One is the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, which identifies the Dham with Mayapur in the center and all the holy places situated around that center, the Yoga Pit. And then he has written a book called the Navadvip Bhava Taranga. Bangajangri Prabhu was referring to it, which is describing the same Navadvip Parikrama, but this time he's not describing the places so much, but he's describing what he's experiencing in these places. Bhava Taranga means waves of ecstasy. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given an external description of the Holy Dham. He's given them Praman Kanda, he's given evidence to support that all these places are there. And then the third thing he has done, he has also described what he was praying, how he was feeling in these places. So we can maybe continue to look at the Dham in these 2 ways today. Looking in the places, what they are, but also what we pray. So if we leave from here, we should certainly leave with a prayer. We should not just leave, okay, we've seen, we've been, Veni Vidi Vici, so I came, I saw, and I conquered, as the Romans used to do. Not exactly like that, but rather we are here to pray for the mercy of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and maybe the prayer that Sanatana Goswami had to Lord Chaitanya. We have heard about the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We've heard something about the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And when Sanatana Goswami received the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he had a very intelligent prayer. And the final prayer after receiving all the instructions was, "My Lord, I pray that all these instructions may be manifest in my heart." So maybe, at least that will be my prayer, because you can all decide what you will pray for, but I'll pray that, the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur may manifest in my heart. That would be something. So, in that way, we come to these places and we take the mercy in our heart, and it is in this way that the Parikram is not just an excursion from after having been too long in a classroom, but rather that this is an essential element of being in the Holy Dham, where we are taking shelter of the mercy, so that we can actually live a life in Krishna consciousness throughout our entire life.
Krishna Prestaya Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavan Vasyacha Desakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Srila Prabhupada ki Harinam Sankirtan Yapatida Ananta Saktivaya Sadhavinda Gita Gita Shri Pansatattva Gita Shri Sri Rama Govinda Gita Shri Sri Radha Madhava Sastri Govinda Gita Shri Sri Nittai Parikram
Hare Krishna. So, at the time of Lord Chaitanya, the Ganges was in a different place than where it is today. And so, it is said that from here, from Navadvip, the crossing of the Ganga was very close to this place, actually. Very close. So we can, the main ferry was just nearby. So the Ganga has of course moved so much in 500 years. And therefore what was then known as the town of Navadvip, and now known as the town of Navadvip, is completely different. So a whole portion of the town of Navadvip was actually here on this island of Godrum. Yes. And then this place, of course, is an eternal pastime place of the entire Panchatattva, who assemble here and dance in ecstatic kirtan. That kirtan, of course, continues, but is sometimes visible. It is said that a great king lived here in the Satya Yuga, whose name was Suvarna Sen. Suvarna means gold. So he was very wealthy, and he was also very much into wealth. He was always endeavoring to expand his wealth. However, once Narada Muni appeared. Narada, who is Trikalakya, who can see past, present and future, understood the nature of this king. And he understood that actually he was a pious soul, but somehow or other now bewildered by material opulence. Because material opulence is very dangerous, and even a spiritual personality sometimes becomes distracted by material opulence. Therefore we must be careful. As Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, a side benefit of devotional service is that one may receive position, name, fame, honor, opulence, and so on. And Maharaj will add some things. And then one can understand that one can become distracted. So the king had become distracted, although he was a pious soul. Narada, knowing his inherent deeper pious nature, appeared before him and reminded the king of his eternal duty of spiritual life, and pointed out the temporary nature of fleeting pleasures and focused on actual devotional service. Then at the end of speaking, Narada became completely ecstatic and called out, Gaura, 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 Hari. And then Narada saw Lord Chaitanya, the entire Panchatattva here, present. And later, the king, then he said to the king, he said, later, You will appear at the time when Lord Gauranga will be here, and you will be one of his associates named Buddhimantakan. So later, that king had a dream, and in the dream the entire Panchatattva appeared and showed this ecstatic kirtan. It is said that when Lord Nityananda took Jiva Goswami around Navadvip and they came to this place, then suddenly they also saw the kirtan here. And it was an ecstatic kirtan, and it was just, and they were rolling on the ground in the greatest ecstasy, swept up in that kirtan, where the entire Panchatattva was present. So this place, therefore, is a kirtan place, so we had to do a little bit of kirtan. Time is also holding us back what to do. So, to make it short, King Suvarna
The Shira is still open till 2:30.
alright, somewhere. Banda ho jaba, theek hai. So, King Suvarna Sen, who became Buddhimanta. Buddhimanta, there are many stories maybe to tell about Buddhimanta, but Buddhimanta was a very wealthy person who was once, as a landowner, excavating a lake, and he engaged many people in that lake, and some were Hindus, some were Muslims, and there was one young man who was there, who was from a Muslim background, and he was also one of the workers, but he wasn't very serious at one point, and Buddhimanta, he punished him using a whip, which left a mark on his back. Well, but that person accepted the punishment, knowing well that he deserved it. So it never was a big thing. But later, that person became the Nawab Hussain Shah. And when he became the Nawab Hussain Shah, naturally it was a major thing, because the wife, one of the queens, she saw that scar. And she said, what is that scar? Who did that? She could see, she knew very well what kind of scar it was. A whip mark. Who did that? It's nothing, it is not important. But she just wouldn't let off, again and again. Who did this? Who did it? Well, actually, when I was young, Buddhimantakan did it. Buddhimantakan. You must kill him. You must kill him. You must punish him with death. She said, no, how can I do this? He was my teacher, my protector. Actually, I owe a lot to him. And I deserved it at that time. He corrected me and I deserved the punishment. No, you have to do something, So the wife put so much pressure that finally the Nawab decided, all right, I'll punish him, I'll convert him to a Muslim. And he took some water from a Muslim pot and threw it on Buddhimantakan, who then on the spot became a Muslim, as it was in that time, yes. So that was obviously a big problem. He went to Benares and different brahmanas advised him to drink hot ghee. He wasn't so sure about that. He had some doubts. So he didn't do that. Others said he should jump in the Ganga and drown. He was also not sure about that. Again, others said it wasn't so serious. So he was very confused. Until he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who instructed him to go to Vrindavan and serve the Vaishnavas, which then Buddhimanta did. So it is interesting that we see how Maharaj Suvarna Sen had an issue with wealth, that later, that by great blessings of Narada, he became a great devotee as Buddhimantakan. And he again had great wealth, but somehow or other this wealth was taken away from him by some external arrangement. And he had to face this. Somehow or other he had to face this being cut off from wealth. But by then he was very transcendental. and felt actually relieved from all this entanglement. And in this way, King Suvarna Sen, in his future life, became completely akinchana gocharam, completely exhausted in all sense of wealth. And so he became a dedicated servant of the Lord, who was anyavilasita sunyam, free from any other desire. Simply, no more wealth, no more power, no more crown, simply freedom to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. So, as we are continuing our parikrama in two ways. One is we are visiting the place, finding out the nature of the place. Then, once we have understood what actually is going on, then the next thing is it's time for prayer. So here we can also pray to become materially exhausted and overcome our material desire, overcome everything and become simply dedicated to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and become totally swept up in the kirtan of the Pancha Tattva and their associates, which are all around us in this Hare Krishna movement. The associates of Lord Chaitanya are here in the form of Chandramauli Maharaj, in the form of Pankajangri Prabhu, in the form of Bhakti Nasringa Maharaj, and in the form of all of you. And somehow or other, I'm an imposter who is also here. What to do? So maybe Maharaj wants to say a few words.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaj said everything I think that needs to be said about the importance of this place. And Buddhimanta Khan, I'm sure Pankajangri Prabhu can maybe add a few things. I just want to say that I was really taken in by the beauty of these deities. Did you also have an experience with these deities? Did you take good darshan? Pretty amazing. There's Sri Sri Radha Govinda. Beautiful, beautiful deities. Maharaj said something that is a philosophical principle, well, maybe a principle of devotional practice that one should be careful of. And that is that as one starts to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, in the beginning Krishna wants his devotee to become somewhat detached from whatever else we are attached with. So in the beginning of Krishna consciousness practice, Krishna starts taking things away. Maybe our family relationships, our money, our ideas of how to become happy in this world. And Krishna just goes through the list. But then the devotee starts to realize Krishna is everything. And I want to surrender to Krishna. I want to be Krishna's devotee. I understand Krishna consciousness is the topmost form of happiness. So the devotee becomes very serious in our practice of Krishna consciousness. Yes. And then what happens when the devotee starts practicing, Krishna starts giving these things back that he took away. Very well. And wealth, sometimes wealth, followers, prestige that comes from having these things. And so the devotee starts again becoming surrounded by the things that he gave up, or she gave up. And then, but the devotee doesn't have any attachments anymore to these things, because Krishna knows now they're attached to me. But, as Maharaj did a side point, which is really a main point, is that these things are very intoxicating and can cause one to become diverted in Krishna consciousness, even for those who are very, very advanced. That's why Lord Chaitanya wants to instruct us very carefully in this. He says, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, I don't want wealth. I don't want followers. I don't want the pleasures of the opposite sex. I also don't want to be known as a great orator of Vedic knowledge. In other words, the prestige that comes with having the understanding of philosophical teachings of the Sastris. People revere that. I don't even want that prestige that comes with that. What else do I don't want? I don't even want to go back to Godhead. Well, I want to become Janmani, 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 Ishwari, Bhavate, Bhakti, Ahai Tukhi Tvai. So this is a nice prayer. It's a prayer of the heart. It's a prayer of renunciation. And this prayer really attracts the attention of the Lord. But when the Lord sees when we seriously offer these prayers, then He gives Himself in devotional service. So, as we make advancement, we should understand that whatever we achieve through the advancement of our devotional service is simply an opportunity to use these things for further service and to spread Krishna consciousness. Jai Shri Sri Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. And in the next verse, Lord Chaitanya says, Ayinanda tanuja kinkaram patidhamam vishyame bhavam bhagam Kipaya tabapara pankaja stita duri sandeshram vichintaya. Now he's begging, praying for the Lord, falling into this ocean of material whirlpool and being tossed from one side to another. There's a stable place which I'm looking for, that's called your lotus feet. If I can have the shelter of your lotus feet, then this ocean of birth and death becomes no longer a threat. It simply becomes a small little puddle that one can easily cross over. So kirtan is our life. Kirtan is our life. Because by kirtan, we can offer our full energy, love, whatever we have in the expression of Lord Krishna by chanting His holy name. And I was amazed when I was thinking, Maharaj is saying this place as Kirtan Shakti in Kolkata. And then I was thinking, yeah, how a lot is Kirtan Shakti? And I was looking around and thinking, well, everybody was smiling and dancing and having a nice time. I think everybody enjoyed that too. That was really amazing. Of course, Maharaj makes it flavorful when it's Shakti. But the place and Maharaj together made it so. I mean, I could have kept dancing, but I was watching everybody else. Wow. It's amazing. There's an old saying. It's not an old saying, it's a new saying, but it works. Never trust a holy man who can't dance. That's said by a very exalted personality in one book that he wrote. When he saw Prabhupada dancing, he was amazed to see such an elderly person jumping up and down in kirtan. And he's looking, and then Hayagriva Prabhu came over to him and he said, never trust a holy man who can't dance. So that stuck with him his whole life. So, yeah, dancing, chanting, and associating with devotees in Krishna consciousness is the wealth that we're really looking for. This material wealth can somehow or other stabilize our physical body to some degree. But mostly it's just a botheration because it diverts our attention away from Krishna. It diverts our attention away from Krishna. So I think there's more to go. We'll be going to the Sringapali, which for me is my favorite place. So now we'll hear from His Grace Pankajangri Prabhu. He's a Dambasi, so he knows the intricacies of a lot of these places that none of us even know about. Okay. I'm behind him.
Jai Bhagwan ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai. So this is, we heard the island of chanting. It represents the anga. The 9 different islands represent the 9 different angas of Bhakti. So this island represents chanting, as we experience. So you all enjoyed that kirtan? Even the walls are sweating, the floors are sweating. There's so much ecstasy there. Did anyone see Panchatattva? Not many. Did anyone feel it? Well, they moved, I think they moved off just before we came. And Nityalila, then Gauranga would come this time of the day, he would come over this side. And this side there was a lot of cowboys, gochis. And they would see Gauranga, and he would get in his Bhava Gopal Krishna, and he would join them and pick up the sticks and swing it around, hi, 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 hi. And the boys said, he would play with him every day. You're not a Brahmana. I mean, you are a Brahmana, but you're more like a ghost than a Brahmana. You're one of us, you know. Come to our house. And they would come. My mother's made some nice sandish and some curds and some dahi. Come and eat this. This way they used to. They said, you know, you're worshipped by the Brahmanas over Navadvip, but for us also you are a worshipable deity. Don't forget, you must come every day. We'll be waiting for you tomorrow. We'll make nice milk preparations. And if you don't come, we'll be really sad. Please, you must come every day. So this was it. Then they would wander off to the next. They would wander through here. Kirtans were going on, and then they would go. Then in the Nityalila, they go to the Madhyam. At midday, they're in the next island. So they just moved on from from being here. This is the place that the Shravana Singh saw this at the kirtan in his dream after Narada Muni explained to him and enlightened him. Narada Muni came and gave him a Sunday feast lecture, you know, all the way from top to bottom, you know, Shraddha Prema. And he just by the association of those great devotee, then he had a dream and he saw the kirtan, and he saw Krishna was dancing with the kirtan, and then suddenly Krishna from blue he turned gold. He said, what is this amazing feature of Krishna? So that is why this place is called Shravana Viha. Shravana means gold, and Viha means moving gold. Lord Gauranga, when he dances so gracefully, it's just like a moving gold, and when he falls on the ground, and next is like a golden mountain mirror rolling on the ground, getting covered with dust. So this was his life. The basic principles of this whole Sankirtan movement. This Sankirtan is the way Mahaprabhu he came. Krishna came to show us, to taste himself, obviously. That was his internal reason, but the external reason was to show us the process of how to love Krishna. And what did he do? They were dancing, they were chanting. First they were chanting, and then they started dancing when they couldn't sit still. And then they took prasadam, and then they had some bhava. They didn't do anything else. That's all they did. So we're following the footsteps on these special chants, on these Parikrams, that we can only engage in those things. Prasad will come later, we hope. But that's it, that's life. This is real life. Don't think there's any more than this. We should be perfectly happy and satisfied, you know, wandering around the holy Dham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, time I am, destroyer of worlds, destroyer of fun also sometimes. What to do. We'll go to Nrsimha next, because it takes a little time, so you can go with the kirtan to the bus. Is Sadbuch there somewhere? I don't know.
you can lead the kirtan to the bus, and then we'll race ahead by car and wait for you at the Sringapali, and then we'll continue there. A very important place also. An ancient deity of Lord Nrsingadev is waiting for us, and a place where Lord Nrsingadev personally came, and a place where we are praying in the mood of Vigna Vinas. Vigna Vinasan, the remover of obstacles. So we can start, so there's definitely a need that we go there, because a few obstacles may still be remaining. We didn't see the Panchatattva, for example. Pankajangi said they went away, so at least he saw them. But we have lots of obstacles, so we should go to Nrsingsapali, I think. It's urgent that we deal with these obstacles. So let us begin our journey to remove the obstacles. Thank you very much.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Sastri
David probably should say something. Kata.
Bhagwan ki Esamadita Naraharupa, Jai Jagadishari, Kava Kava Kamalama, Vena Kam, Adbhuta Shinti, Lalita Hirashindika, Jai Samadita Naraharupa, Jai Jagadishari. Now, Nashikadeva is the deva for protection.
But with the back to the deities.
You're sitting with the ladies, come on out of there.
Not with
The Shingadev and his representatives will always protect you. The greatest times of fear. The nails like thunderbolts, stone. We can easily uproot these unwanted problems that we have. Just like Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing the whole world it's a demon. He was destroying the Brahminical culture, changing the laws of nature. Very powerful, but and he had all the Devas subjugated, all under his control. But very shortly, when the Shingadeva appeared, then he was finished. So the Shingadeva is always on our side. We should never think that our problems are insurmountable. He was always there to help us. So if you have problems, we pray to the Shingadeva. You pray every time you go to the Shingadeva. You can pray for one thing, whatever prominent on your mind. You say every time you say it, you can pray, and you see after 2 weeks, something wonderful will happen. So, but we need help. We do need help. Okay, and
turn a little, turn. See, you're holding it like this. If you hold like that, we can hear you.
okay. We do need help. So just like we've been subjugated by Hiranyakashipu in the form of Kam, Krodh, love, all these different desires that we have, and that's why we're in the material world. So everyone has these problems, but with Nishingadev there, we shouldn't fear them, but we have to work on them. We do need help. Don't be ashamed to admit it, and don't be ashamed to ask for it. Because when you go before the deity, you should ask something. Because you start your relationship with the deity, either spiritual or material, but you should have some reciprocation with the deity. Start. Like Srila Bhakti Thakur, he's praying in another Dhamma, he comes and he says, when I fall at the floor, on the floor here at the Shingapali in front of Lord Nishingadev and beg him for his mercy to remove all his Kam, Krodh, lobh, his lust and stuff that I have in the heart. And when will he put his feet on my head and say, dear child, stay happily here in Navadvip and practice a simple process of bhakti. And very soon, by the mercy of my devotees, all your desires will be fulfilled. So they're there, all these residents of the Dham, they're there to help us. So don't be afraid, ashamed to ask for their help. We do need help. Like Lord Nishingadev blesses him, then Lord Shiva, Lord Shiva is in charge of the false ego. He's the false ego in the universal form. So he can remove our false ego if we ask him. We can't do it ourselves. Not possible. And Paudamaya, she covers the Dham. So unless she lifts that covering, we can't appreciate the Dham. So we need that. We need the help. Then all the other bhaktas, great bhaktas, we want their mercy also. But everything there is, everything in the Dham takes on the same quality as the presiding deity of the Dham. Here it's Gauranga, and his mood is, Advaya is benevolence, giving. He wants to give. He wants everyone to be reinstated in a constitutional position of loving Krishna. So that's what he's come to give. So everything else in the Dham has the same particular mood. So everything wants to give. But when one has to be receptive and one has to be actually sincerely wanting it. So if one is actually sincere about it, then these things will be revealed according to our, because Krishna is going to reciprocate with our own sincerity. So to that degree, we're actually surrendered to the idea of becoming Krishna's eternal servant. To that degree, then the Dharma will be revealed. But you know, Tagore says there's only one thing material in the Dharma. So that is the consciousness of a person who thinks it's material, or is thinking of has material desires in the Dharma. But otherwise, everything is Satchidananda, transcendental. But this deity has been here since Satya Yuga, apparently. And the river Nandakini, it used to flow past here. Now there's a lake that is left. It says after Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, then he came here to it, and when he came to this place, then he became very much attracted, being Navadvip down, recognized it as his own eternal abode, not different. So then he resided here. And many devatas, they come and they build their houses here on the side of the Nandakini and worship him. And this place is a hill, and it was all forest around, and sometimes the Nrsimhadev would roar. So common people wouldn't come here. They think there's something very ferocious up there. So then the Lord lived here peacefully, being worshipped by the different devatas. That is the history of this place. There's one interesting story of this deity. One Mataji told me, she came here. She's living in America, but she's Bengali, and she couldn't have a child. So she prayed to Nrsimhadev, if you fulfill my desire of having a child, I will offer you this special puja. Special puja. Today you see so much, very opulent, so much tulsi there. Today is Saturday. It's Nrsimhadev's day of worship. So they have an abhishek in the morning. We missed it, but so it's the big day of the week. That's why there's so many tulsi gardens there. And so anyway, she made that prayer, and she had a child. But the child wouldn't speak. Then they moved to America, I believe, or UK. And for 4 years the child wouldn't speak. And the doctors couldn't find any reason why it couldn't speak. But one day one of her friends reminded her, did you ever do that puja for Nrsimhadev that you promised if you have a child? She said, no, I didn't do it. Well, she should do it. So then she came, the next time she came here, then she offered this puja, and immediately the boys started to speak. You know. I mean, he could speak sentences and everything. Small miracle here. Not as many as our Nrsimhadev, but so he's our ever wisher. So we worship Nrsimhadev for the protection of the spiritual master and the protection of the Sankirtan movement, as well as our own personal desires. Santa Bhagavan.
Swami.
By name, by nature.
Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuramitam Jana Tasma Shri Guru Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Normally I'm in Vrindavan around this time. It's first time for me to be in Navadvip, Manda Parikram. And of course, as Pankajalu Prabhu was explaining about the mercy of Nrsimhadev. So Lord Nrsimhadev takes upon many forms. He is Marola Nrsimha, Lakshmi Nrsimha, Urga Nrsimha, and here we have Vinashaya Nrsimha. So Vinashaya Nrsimha is a form of the Lord that removes obstacles on the path of devotional service. So as he was explaining the story of the Mataji, had an obstacle. So that way, Shingadev is everywhere and everywhere, wherever devotees are present. And he takes upon different forms. Once I was in Africa with Patasadi Goswami. It's sort of like we went to some remote part of Africa. So we went to one house. So with some people there who came to see us, so Maharaj was speaking. Both of us were brahmacharis at the time. So Maharaj was a senior brahmachari, so he was speaking. Suddenly one lady, she fell on the ground, she started, rolling on the ground, like something is inside her, strangling her. So then we started singing, Namaste Narasimhaya, Praladaladaine, Hiranyaga Shikuvasa, Hiranyaga Shikuvasa, After we sang, immediately whatever was possessing the lady was gone and she became normal. So when I was initiated, my Guru Maharaj gave me the name Nishinga Swami. He said, because you go to Africa to many dangerous places, I'm giving this name for your protection. So in that way, it was nice. We just started chanting Nishingadev's prayers, and then immediately the lady was relieved. So that was my first-hand experience. If you want to have such experience, you can come with me to the Amazon jungle. So I go to dangerous places. But when I'm faced with danger, just chant this mantra and I feel good. So we go to the Amazon, many jungles and preach to the tribes. Sometimes it's very scary. Yes, we travel for 12 hours by boat. When you get to the place, as soon as you jump out of the boat, there are thousands and thousands of mosquitoes waiting for you. And the Amazon mosquitoes are not holy like Mayapur mosquitoes. They just come out and just attack you. Thousands and thousands of them. So, in that way, Nishingadev protectors with this chant, Namaste Narasimhaya. We cross the forest, the jungle. So in that way, this is Vinashaya Narasimha Maharaj. He is the protector of the devotees. So whenever we feel obstructed, we can chant this prayer and then we will feel the relief. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Nishimare Bhagavan Ki.
Vedanta Desika, who is a major follower of Ramanuja Acharya, he wrote a little poem, and in that poem he's describing, he said that Prahlad was us. Prahlad, why is it that you took this poison and then nothing happened? And they gave you poison and you didn't die. Prahlad said, how could I die? Poison, after all, is my relative, right? Because that poison, right, it came out of the ocean of milk as they were churning it. And next Lakshmi Devi came. So poison is my uncle. So would my uncle harm me? No, he wouldn't. Prahlad. But the snakes, what about the snakes? Why did the snakes not harm you? Look, my father is resting on a bed of snakes. I mean, when a child plays on his father's bed, do you think that anything will happen to him? It's no problem. Alright, Prahlad, but what about fire? When they were trying to burn you, Prahlad. Prahlad said, fire is the mouth of my father. He eats through fire. So, will a child be afraid of his father? Said, no, in this way, Prahlad was always protected. Prahlad at all times was very confident that the Supreme Lord would come before him and somehow or other that no harm would come to him. He had this great faith, even against the odds. His father was extremely powerful and an adult, and he was a child. Still, he was not afraid. He had that faith, my father will protect me. So, in this way, whenever we approach Lord Nrsingadev, we always approach the Lord through Prahlad. Because it is that deep, deep faith that Prahlad has that really protects us. If we just have that complete understanding that the Lord knows what is best, and He makes all the arrangements, and even if it looks unfavorable, know it to be favorable, because we simply trust in our Lord. Nothing will happen. Somehow or other, Lord Nrsingadev appeared with these Vajranaka, these nails like thunderbolts, teeth, Tamstranaka, teeth like thunderbolts, his manes with drops of blood from Hiranyakasipu. He looked very beautiful that way, but also very, very ghastly. I mean, such a threatening form that all the demigods, they just fell backwards and took distance, and no one dared to go near the Lord. Still, when we think of that fearsome form of the Lord, then we can remember one thing, and that is that although the external form of the Lord is very fearsome, internally the Lord is very soft-hearted. And the reason is, He appeared in this form out of soft-heartedness, because He deeply cared for Prahlad. Because of His love for Prahlad, and because Prahlad was under threat, the soft-hearted Lord took the most angry form. Therefore, especially in this form of Lord Nrsingadev, the Lord is very soft-hearted. And that we can remember. And in this way, we are very fortunate to always have that intimate connection with Lord Nrsingadev. Somehow or other, when Srila Prabhupada became ill, and then he said to the devotees that they could pray to the Lord and say that my master has not yet finished his service. So please allow our spiritual master to stay. And he also taught the devotees ministering with prayer. And in that time it was introduced for the first time. And now that prayer has become so much part of our life, so much that Lord Nrsingadev is very close to our heart. And we are very fortunate because he is very soft-hearted, and he will certainly remove all the demon-like desires from our hearts, which is very kind of him, without a doubt. So in this way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur came here and prayed to this deity that he might be removed from all obstacles so that he would be able to fully dedicate himself to the service of Radha and Krishna. And in this way we can see how these two apparently different moods, on the one hand the sweet Radha Madhava at the Astasaki, and it's all sweetness, Madhuram, Madhuram, Madhuram. And then on the other side, Lord Nrsingadev in that form. But how the two come together, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is clarifying to us. He makes it clear. The worship of Lord Nrsingadev in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita is mentioned to be very, very important. It's said that there are three manifestations of the Lord. Lord Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Nrsingadev, who have all the six opulences. And therefore, particularly, these deities must be are most dear to us.
Thank you. On behalf of all the devotees, thank you. Sri Nrsinga, Jai Nrsinga, Jai Jai Sri Nrsinga Paladadesha, Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Brima, Ugram Virya Mahavishnu, Jwalantam Sarvato Mukham Nrsinga Vishinam Bhadram Nityam Nityam Namayami. His Grace Pankajangri, many years ago, put together a book on the ISKCON pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev. So if you want to learn a lot about how Nrsingadev is very much active within our ISKCON movement, there is many stories that Pankajangri put together. It's an amazing book. As the other devotees said, they took everything I wanted to say. So now I'm trying to think of what I'm supposed to say. But the thing I wanted to say and to emphasize was that in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayer, when he came here and took shelter of this place and did his bhajan here and prayed to Lord Nrsinga for the removal of the obstacles in his worship of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan, he mentions in his writings about the time when he was here, he mentions that Lord Nrsingadev for a devotee does three main things. Of course, we heard over and over again how he protects the devotees from material dangers. As Maharaj mentions, he goes to the most dangerous places. But because he knows that Lord Nrsingadev can protect, he gives fearlessness. So he protects from the dangers that this material world is full of. I think Lord Nrsingadev is very much a feature of Kali Yuga because there's so many dangers in his age. See, he seems to be the deity for worship in this age because there's so many dangers. This is just a very dangerous age materially. Another thing that he does is that he destroys material illusions. That material energy presents to us in different forms, attractions, that bring our consciousness away from Krishna with the desire to somehow or other find happiness in material sense gratification. By praying to Lord Nrsingadev, he helps you to see through the illusions that are presented in our day-to-day life. So we can say, oh yes, by the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev, I can realize there's no happiness there. He just shows us, by his mercy, he reveals that this is simply an illusion of the material dance. We shouldn't be attracted for that. So he protects this devotee against material illusions, with the desires to enjoy separate from Krishna. And the third thing is that it is a beautiful prayer that is offered by Prahlad Maharaj in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein he talks about how we pray to Lord Nrsingadev to free us from fruitive activities, or the desire for material gain through activities. This element is very much prominent in the conditioned soul's nature, to do something and try to enjoy the results of the activity. It may also filter in, and probably does filter into, the association of Vaishnavas, where we look for some personal results for whatever activities we perform, as opposed to what Maharaj was saying, quoting Rupa Goswami's statement that Bhakti is free from any personal desire, any personal gain, and from any angle. So Prahlad prays, my dear Lord, please remove these desires for fruitive gain that are sitting within my heart. They're like demons. The demons in the heart, as was mentioned earlier, come in different forms, and those demons distract our mind and create this idea that we can become happy through gaining things through devotional activities. So there's a beautiful prayer. I'll recite this prayer. Maybe we can all recite it together. Would you like to recite this prayer? It's really a nice prayer. You ready? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namas Teja Tejase Avir Bhava Rajanaka Rajadamstra Tamasayan Radaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyasta Om Shram Sri Nrsinga Bhagavan Ki. So chant that prayer regularly, and you can feel the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev. The prayer is asking for fearlessness, and it's also asking for, please remove from our hearts those desires for fruitive gain through activities. Would you like to all do it again? Yes! Let's do it together. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Tejase Avir Bhava Rajanaka Rajadamstra Kamasaya Radaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyasa Om Shram Sri Nrsinga Bhagavan Ki. Where's that from? That prayer is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 18th chapter, verse number 8. And in verse number 9, Prahlad Maharaj offers a prayer to pray for let everyone in the world find peace and happiness. And he prays to Lord Nrsinga to please grant everyone the opportunity to be happy and to be peaceful. So he's praying more like a prayer of welfare for everyone's benefit. And he prays to Lord Nrsinga to please grant that to every soul. So this is the compassion of Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Can I tell one story about Prahlad Maharaj? Maharaj really inspired me to tell this story just to show his compassion and how much he didn't take offense at all to his father's trying to kill him in different ways. He felt his father was simply an illusion and he needed some mercy. So he never hated his father, he never tried to take revenge from his father. So at one time, this is not mentioned in Bhagavatam, it's mentioned in the Hari Bhakta Sudodaya. In the Hari Bhakta Sudodaya, there's a long explanation of some of the Leelas of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. But in this one incident, Hiranyakashipu sends Prahlad Maharaj to these Brahmins, and they're tantric Brahmins. And they have the power to cast spells on people, and the power of those spells will destroy a person's life. So they've been commissioned by Hiranyakashipu, and they were sternly instructed that you must succeed. And Hiranyakashipu is not going to be happy if they don't. So they start chanting their mantras. And as they're chanting their mantras and aiming their mantras at Prahlad, he's just sitting there offering prayers, absorbed in meditation upon the Lord in his heart. The mantras are not doing anything. Prahlad is sitting there just like nothing ever happened. But the thing is that when you offer these mantras towards a person, and that person doesn't become affected by it, the person who chants the mantra gets the mantra back towards him. So all these brahmanas now are feeling the effects of their own curses coming back upon them. And now they're scared, they're fearful, and they're thinking, oh my God, we're gonna die. So who do they do? Who do they pray to? Prahlad. They pray to Prahlad, Prahlad, please save us. They're trying to kill him, and they're praying to Prahlad to save them. And Prahlad says, all right. I mean, I didn't say all right, but he somehow or other, by his own power, he prayed to the Lord to retract the power of those mantras so they wouldn't affect the Brahmins. And the Brahmins were relieved from that. So this is the greatness of a person like Prahlad Maharaj. Not only did he take offense, but when they were in danger, and the danger was caused by themselves, he simply showed some concern for their livelihood by retracting the mantras. So I just wanted to bring out, this is the quality of a great soul. Because they're so fixed upon the Lord within their heart, they don't have any enemies. And as Prabhupada said, if someone makes them their enemy, they don't make their enemy their enemy also. They simply feel that this person needs Krishna's mercy. So we have many examples with Haridas Thakur and others. So this is a beautiful explanation of the heart of a pure devotee. He's never disturbed by, and he always takes shelter of the Lord. And this is, for us devotees, we know that. But Prabhupada said, don't only take shelter of the Lord when things become difficult. He says, living in this material world means to be in a difficult place. So we should always be in the mood of taking shelter, of remembering the Lord as much as possible. And then the material energy has no effect upon the devotee. Simply by remembering the Lord, and remember the Lord with devotion, and then the whole material energy is no longer effective upon the devotee. Either the nice things, there's also the other side, that if you take shelter of the Lord, you don't get the nice things of material energy also. Haribol. So sometimes you might be a little hesitant to think, But you can see both sides don't come. The material happiness that somehow diverts our attention away from Krishna is now given to us in the form of transcendental happiness at the lotus feet of the Lord. So the devotee is not interested, even in the niceties that come by way of material life. Okay, so this is a wonderful place. Maybe Maharaj can say a few closing words. Shri Nrsimha, Jai Nrsimha, Jai Jai Shri Nrsimha. All glories to Lord Nrsimhadev.
I said, can I give another class, if you don't mind? We've been going to the classes by Radha Govinda Maharaj on the side of the Ganges at 4 o'clock every day. So he was talking about Prahlad, how Prahlad is the best of the best devotees. He said when Hiranyakashipu was killed, all the demigods were saying, Jai, Jai, everyone was happy, they're throwing flowers. And Prahlad was thinking, this father, he's so sinful, he did so many sins, he'll never get a chance of redemption. He can be held for practically ever. He was thinking like that. That he was sad, but everyone else was jubilant. They was showering flowers and saying, Jay, finally this rascal's been killed, and Prahlad was crying, he's going to go to hell forever, he'll never get a chance of redemption. So therefore when Nrsimhadev asked him, what do you want? I don't want anything, but please look after my father. There's a heart of a devotee, even his worst enemy, he's compassionate for him. That's another story. In Mayapur, Nrsimha. A person whose story is here, but she won't tell it, so I'm going to tell you for her. So she used to make tulsi garlands every day for Nrsimhadev, and they were big tulsi garlands, and they take hours to make. You know, the fingers go green, just like these chain smokers, their fingers go real, you can tell who's a serious garland maker. And so every day she was making these garlands, and I gave her one of Nrsimhadev's fingernails as a Mahaprasad. Sometimes he wears these false nails. So I gave her one as a Mahaprasad for protection, and she hang it around her neck. That night, Nrsimhadev in a dream came, and he put his own nails in her heart, and he pulled out this black yucky stuff. And he said, you see this? He said, this is not love, this is lust. And there's more there. What should I do with it? So you have to work yourself. You don't depend on the Lord completely. It is something for us to do. We have to also be participants and work hard on it also, as well as pray for His mercy. Hare Krishna.
We thank you all for such a nice day, so much nice association, so many nice impressions. And I thought that Maharaj chanted that one prayer from the 5th canto, and I thought I should at least read the translation of the next verse, because it's such a nice verse that I think that is the prayer of a Sankirtan devotee. Right? And we can pray for our purification, but ultimately to go away with this, with that kind of a prayer, that might be a nice end, since we are part of the Sankirtan movement. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be satisfied. May all living entities become calm by practicing Bhakti Yoga, for by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Shri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. So with that prayer, that the whole world may just give up their envy, and that may take up devotional service, and that then people start thinking of each other's welfare. May that, with that prayer, that everyone will take up the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. May with that we go on our way and return from holy place to holy place, because where we are residing is another holy place. So in that way, wherever you go in Mayapur, you go from mercy to mercy, and it never seems to end. And I heard that Prasadam is waiting also. So with that, we are very happy that you all came. Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Nrsimhadev ki jai. Shri Nrsimhapani ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. All glories to the
So this Kadambakanini Swami Maharaj ki. So this Chandramoli Swami Maharaj ki.